Never socialize, ever. Because every time you do, something inside you dies without you realizing it. It's not an exaggeration. It's the truth you've been dodging your entire life. Socializing isn't sharing. It isn't connection. It isn't human warmth. Socializing is giving away pieces of your authenticity in exchange for crumbs of approval. And the worst part is that you do it with a smile on your face, convinced that you're living. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, what hides behind those endless conversations, those forced laughs, those plans you agree to without wanting to? The darkest transaction of all hides there. Your inner silence turned into noise, your creativity diluted in collective stupidity, your irreplaceable time thrown into the fire of empty conversations. And the most macabre part, they've made you believe that without all this, you're nothing. Look around and watch how the crowd clings to company like an addict to their dose. They confuse being surrounded by bodies with having connection. They confuse acceptance with fulfillment. They don't say it out loud, but they tremble at the idea of being alone. Because solitude is the most brutal mirror. There are no masks, no applause, no audience to validate every gesture. There's only you, and that terrifies them. What no one wants to admit is that this constant exposure to others doesn't make you more human. It makes you more of a slave. Every word you adapt, every gesture you soften, every idea you silence to fit in is another chain binding you to collective judgment. And when you finally notice, you're no longer you. You're a character, a carefully designed mask meant to please. But listen closely. There's another way. Schopenhauer shouted it from his own inner exile. Solitude isn't the curse they told you it was. It's the only salvation possible. In solitude, you discover what the crowd steals from you: clarity, strength, freedom, creativity. There, you don't need to sell yourself. You don't need to negotiate your essence. There, you own yourself. And here's my promise. If you stay until the end of this video, you'll understand why not socializing can become your greatest psychological, philosophical, and existential advantage. I'll show you how isolation, far from being weakness, is the doorway to the most radical independence and true wisdom. You'll see that social noise was never your ally. It was your executioner. And within silence lies the only power that no one can ever take from you. Do you want to discover it? Then listen carefully, because what you're about to hear, you'll never forget. Do you know what the greatest deception you've been dragged into is? The illusion that the crowd protects you. You think being surrounded by people gives you safety, saves you from the void, keeps you alive. But the truth is far darker. The crowd numbs you. It lulls you slowly until you forget that you were ever an individual with your own voice. You become an echo, a reflection of what others expect you to be. Society doesn't want your authenticity. It wants your docility. And the sinister part is that it disguises its poison with smiles, with words like friendship, affection, company. It's the perfect trap. No one suspects they're being chained when the chain shines like a gift. And the worst part is, you accept it without resistance. You adapt to what everyone does. You talk about what everyone talks about. You consume what everyone consumes. You abandon your silence, that sacred space where the ideas that could transform your life are born, and you trade it for the cacophony of trivial conversations. Conversations you'll never remember, that leave no mark, that exist only to feed an illusion, the illusion of belonging. But belonging to what? To a herd walking blindly toward mediocrity, to a chorus of voices that build nothing, that only repeat what they heard yesterday. Alan Watts hinted at it. The constant need to be with others isn't a sign of vitality. It's a sign of fear. Fear of hearing yourself. Fear of confronting your darkest thoughts. Fear of discovering that you are not what you show in public. That's why people flee from solitude as if it were a disease, when in reality, it's the only place where healing happens. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you didn't need anyone's approval. Imagine walking through the crowd without the urge to please, without the burden of maintaining a persona. Imagine what would happen to your creativity if you stopped diluting it in the constant noise of other people's opinions. Solitude, when understood properly, is a secret laboratory. That's where the ideas the world never expects are distilled. Ideas that aren't born at a bar table or in a group chat, but in the intimacy of your own mind. Schopenhauer knew it. For him, solitude wasn't punishment. It was the ultimate proof of an individual's greatness. The one who can be alone doesn't need to beg for attention, doesn't need to become a copy, doesn't need to disguise themselves as what the masses approve of. The one who embraces solitude discovers something terrifying and liberating at once, that they can live without applause, without witnesses, without cheers. And when you reach that point, you're invincible. Society, however, despises those who choose that path, because your independence is an insult to those who can't live without chains. If you choose solitude, they'll look at you like a stranger. They'll call you weird, antisocial, arrogant. But it's not arrogance within you. It's freedom. A freedom so radical it unsettles those who never dared to step outside the herd. And here comes the revelation you won't find in any self-help book. The more you mix with the crowd, the weaker you become. Your energy dissipates, your mind fragments, your time evaporates. Real strength isn't in talking to everyone. It's in knowing when to stay silent. It isn't in showing up everywhere. It's in disappearing when no one expects it. Real power is invisible, and it's forged only in solitude. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, what have you lost from being too busy socializing? What projects were left unfinished because you chose another meaningless outing? What ideas never saw the light because you stayed silent just to avoid seeming strange? Every trivial encounter is a grave where you bury a piece of yourself. And meanwhile, society applauds you for being normal. But if you make it to the end of this video, you'll understand that being normal isn't a reward. It's the cruelest punishment. And you'll discover that the key to escaping that punishment has always been in your pocket. Learning to be alone, and not just enduring it, but desiring it, defending it, turning it into your most indestructible fortress. Because once you achieve that, you'll have won the only game that truly matters, the one where you no longer need anyone to be fully yourself. The most dangerous lie they've taught you isn't that you need others, it's that without them, you are nothing. That's the deepest poison that's seeped into your mind. The idea that your worth depends on the reflection you see in other people's eyes. But tell me, when was the last time you looked straight into that reflection without feeling distorted? Because every gaze you seek isn't recognition. It's a confirmation that you exist. And that dependence is the greatest of all slaveries. What almost no one understands is that society functions like a giant psychological marketplace. Every interaction is a silent trade. You give authenticity, you receive acceptance. You give inner silence, you receive noise. You give time, you receive distraction. The problem is that the currency is always yours, and what you get in return never has the same value. You're giving away gold and receiving sand. That's the social transaction that keeps you trapped. Alan Watts said we've been programmed to confuse company with connection and acceptance with fulfillment. Do you feel it? You're surrounded by people all the time, yet most feel empty. And the emptier they feel, the more they try to fill the void, with more noise, more interactions, more social showcases. It's a vicious circle that never ends because the source of the problem is inside, not outside. And as long as you keep chasing company, clarity dissolves like smoke. Here's where Schopenhauer takes a brutal turn. For him, solitude isn't just not a problem, it's the only philosophical solution. Why? Because in solitude, no transaction is possible. You give nothing to please anyone. You're not forced to negotiate your essence. There, in that seemingly empty space, the opposite happens. You recover what you gave away. You recover authenticity. You recover freedom. You recover inner strength. And with that comes something the crowd can never give you: the ability to think for yourself. Creativity doesn't arise from a group of voices repeating the same thing over and over. Creativity is born in the half-light, in the moments where there is no audience, no pressure to fit in. Art, philosophy, discovery, they've always emerged from minds brave enough to isolate themselves from the noise. Do you see the irony? What you fear most, being alone, is what you need most. And there's something even more unsettling no one tells you. Excessive socialization robs you even of your ability to feel at peace with yourself. When you spend too much time among others, your mind begins to adapt to an external rhythm, like a radio that never turns off. Silence starts to scare you. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you feel naked. So you need more noise, more messages, more distractions. That's the real conditioning. You can no longer bear your own self without the crutch of the group. But here's the final trap. The group doesn't save you from loneliness. It only disguises it. Because even if you're surrounded by thousands, if your inner world is empty, loneliness multiplies. The collective noise doesn't erase the void. It only masks it. And sooner or later, when the lights go out and you're alone in your room, the truth hits harder than ever. Then the echo of all those useless conversations appears, and you realize they left you nothing. Do you want to know what the most terrifying power a human being can possess is? The ability to enjoy silence. That's the one realm society cannot enter. No conditioning can survive once you learn to be with yourself, without masks, without noise. That's the threshold separating the strong individual from the slave of approval. And reaching that threshold is brutal, but it's also the greatest liberation. And here's what I promise you. Once you understand that every unnecessary social interaction is a robbery disguised as companionship, you'll begin to see solitude as a privilege, not a punishment. That shift in perspective is the start of your true independence. What once was fear becomes power. Because silence, when accepted, turns into a weapon that shields you from manipulation, dependence, and emptiness. That's the truth no one wants to tell you, and the one you're about to discover if you dare to keep listening. There's a truth that hurts more than any criticism. Most people don't think. They just repeat. They reproduce pre-made phrases, recycled opinions, beliefs they've never questioned. And every time you socialize without filters, you expose yourself to that silent contagion. It's like breathing polluted air. You don't notice it at first, but little by little, your mind fills with other people's dust. And the most disturbing part is that you end up believing those ideas are yours. Your authenticity becomes a collage of external voices, a mosaic of borrowed thoughts that have nothing to do with you. Society applauds that uniformity because it's easy to control. The collective doesn't care about your originality. It cares about your predictability. That's why difference is punished and repetition is celebrated. And while you strive to fit in, you lose the most valuable thing you could offer: a unique vision. The price of acceptance is your singularity. You become just another shadow within a crowd marching to the same rhythm, even though no one knows where they're going. Now think about this. What happens when you isolate yourself from the noise? At first, I'll admit, it's uncomfortable. Silence feels heavy. You face your own fears, the questions you never wanted to ask. But if you make it through that tunnel, something extraordinary happens. Your mind begins to produce genuine thoughts. You start to notice ideas that don't come from outside, but from within. And there's the magic. In that moment, you discover that creativity isn't a talent reserved for a few, but the natural result of one who dares to stay alone with their demons. People think they need to be surrounded by others to avoid going crazy, but it's the opposite. Too many people around you takes away your sanity. Social overexposure is a labyrinth of stimuli that fragments your attention and scatters your energy. And attention is your most valuable resource. Wherever you place it, it grows. But when you spread it across 100 superficial conversations, nothing remains for what truly matters. That's the great irony. The more you socialize, the less of you remains. And here comes a painful truth. The crowd never seeks your well-being. It seeks your conformity. If you're authentic, they'll question you. If you're independent, they'll attack you. Because your mere existence reminds them of what they don't dare to do. Being different is a threat to those enslaved by the script. That's why every time you socialize unconsciously, you're negotiating your essence to avoid making others uncomfortable. You mutilate yourself a little to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. Schopenhauer understood this with brutal clarity. Only the one who dares to be alone can be truly free, because in solitude, there's no one to dictate how you should think, speak, or act. It's just you, in all your rawness, facing the mirror of your mind. And that mirror, though it sometimes shows you monsters, is the only one that doesn't lie. The question is, are you willing to pay the price for that truth? Because silence isn't comfortable, but it transforms you. Social noise, on the other hand, is comfortable, but it degrades you. Sooner or later, you'll have to choose between the pain that liberates and the comfort that destroys. Imagine for a second how your life would change if you stopped trading your authenticity for acceptance. If you chose who to talk to and when, not out of fear of seeming rude, but because you decided it yourself. Imagine the energy reclaimed, the time recovered, the clarity restored. That's the life hidden within well-understood solitude. It's not emptiness, it's abundance. It's not isolation, it's independence. And here's the secret few dare to admit. Solitude doesn't take anything from you. It gives you back everything you've lost. What the crowd dissolved, silence rebuilds. What society fragmented, solitude integrates. What noise shattered, calm heals. That's the alchemy no one talks about, because if everyone discovered it, the game of social control would end in a second. So ask yourself right now, do you want to keep giving away your essence in every forced greeting, every empty chat, every soulless meeting? Or do you want to recover it in the only place where it can never be stolen? The choice seems simple, but it demands a courage few possess. Because embracing solitude is, at its core, declaring yourself free in a world built for approval slaves. There's something I haven't told you yet, and it's perhaps the most unsettling of all. Solitude isn't just a refuge, it's also a test designed to separate those who need a herd from those who can walk alone through the dark. Because in that total silence, when no one applauds you, when no one validates your existence, when all you have is yourself. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. That's when the ultimate question appears. Who are you really when there are no witnesses? That's the question the crowd fears, and only a few dare to answer. And if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you suspects that the answer could change you forever. Because maybe you're beginning to see that it was never the crowd that gave you value, but your own ability to stand without it. True independence isn't shouting, "I'm free," in front of everyone. It's not needing to prove it at all. And at that point, you're no longer a slave to approval. You become someone who cannot be manipulated. And that, believe me, is a power that frightens. But I don't want this idea to remain just a thought. I want you to take it with you, to chew on it, to feel it the next time you check your phone waiting for a message, the next time you accept an invitation out of fear of being alone, the next time you hide your authenticity behind a few borrowed smiles. Remember this: every time you do, you're selling your freedom. And freedom is far too expensive to trade for so little. So here's my conclusion. Solitude is not your enemy. It's your teacher. And everything you fear in it is really the reflection of what you carry inside. If you learn to face it, if you withstand that initial vertigo, you'll find something the crowd can never give you. Peace, clarity, strength, and a kind of power no one suspects exists. It's not about hating society. It's about no longer kneeling before it. Now, I want to propose something. Write in the comments the phrase, "Silence is power," if you truly understand what all this means. It'll be our secret way of recognizing each other, those who no longer need noise to exist. And I'll say goodbye now, but not like everyone else. I won't say farewell, because what you take with you doesn't end when this video ends. I want you to close your eyes after this and listen to what remains. Silence. That same silence you once feared, now turned into your greatest ally. Stay with it, because that's where everything they never told you begins. See you in the part of you that no one else knows.